listening to the WrestleHavoc Podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. We talk all that goes on in the realm of WWE and AEW every week. And now, here's your host, the one that will give you a reality check on pro wrestling, Flamin' Ricky DeReyes. This is the WrestleHavoc Podcast.
It was December 15th, 2019, at the TLC pay-per-view, where the last man to pin Roman Reigns was Baron Corbin. Fast forward to July of 2023, at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. The Bloodline implodes with the Bloodline Civil War, and Jey Uso pins the Tribal Chief. Jey Uso pins the head of the table. Jey Uso pins Roman Reigns dead center in the ring. 1, 2, 3. What's up, everybody? It is Flamin' Ricky DeReyes right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast, here to review Money in the Bank 2023. Of course, Money in the Bank this year is taking place from the O2 Arena in London, England. And let me tell you guys, the atmosphere in London was absolutely phenomenal. Just amazing, man. You know, one thing that I will say about WWE, because let's be honest with ourselves, the weekly shows haven't been really the best. But the one thing WWE has mastered in 2023 is the format and how they model their pay-per-views. What WWE has done with their pay-per-views in 2023 alone, really almost all of these shows throughout 2023 regarding WWE pay-per-views or PLEs, whatever you want to call them, have been home run shows. We are talking about B-level pay-per-views really being treated as a big, big, big deal. Look at Backlash in Puerto Rico. Backlash, really, for a B-level pay-per-view, felt like a big deal. It felt very important because of the places that they went. You know, they went to Puerto Rico for Backlash. They went to Cardiff for Clash at the Castle. They went to Montreal for the Elimination Chamber. And now they are in London, England for Money in the Bank. This show was awesome. I had a blast watching this pay-per-view. Everything on this show, am I going to say the show was perfect? No, there were some duds on the show. But I'm not going to sit here and bash the show just because it's WWE. WWE, let's be honest with ourselves, have been delivering home runs on pay-per-views. They have mastered the idea of what a pay-per-view should be. Say what you want about the weekly shows, and trust me, the weekly shows, they're tough watch, especially on Monday Night Raw. SmackDown's a little bit better, but it's starting to fall off a cliff a little bit. But I have to say, man, every month when it comes to their pay-per-views, or almost every month, WWE has really given you a quality show pay-per-view by pay-per-view by pay-per-view. That is really the best explanation that I can give you for what this show, that being Money in the Bank, was. The atmosphere, man. You guys in London, you guys absolutely blew away all expectations. If you really think about it, the reaction of the crowd at Money in the Bank in London at the O2 makes me even more excited for what's to come at All In at Wembley Stadium. Because, of course, Wembley Stadium is in London. And you guys know, when it comes to this AEW pay-per-view, All In, they are going to knock the floor. Not knock the floor with Money in the Bank, but really knock the floor with the audience that they have. The audience, man, on this show. And I expect the same for All In, because it's going to be in Wembley Stadium and it's going to be in London, man. They're going to be on fire. They're going to be on their feet, and they're going to be chanting the craziest shit imaginable, because that is exactly what we got on this Money in the Bank pay-per-view. But overall thoughts on this Money in the Bank show. I thought it was a phenomenal show. Of course, we had the Bloodline Civil War. We have two new Money in the Bank winners. Of course, we have Damian Priest as Mr. Money in the Bank and Io Sky as Mrs. Money in the Bank. Damian Priest, he was not the man that I wanted to win. I wanted LA Knight to win the match, but it makes sense for Damian Priest to win. So we really should not complain that we got Damian Priest. If Logan Paul had won, I would have 100% complained. But Damian Priest winning the Money in the Bank, even though I wanted LA Knight, because it was clear as day. It was as clear as day that LA Knight was the most over guy in the Money in the Bank ladder match. LA Knight clearly should have won this match. But the second option was definitely Damian Priest, and Damian Priest definitely deserved the opportunity that he is most likely going to be getting. And, of course, he is in a built-in story with Finn Balor. Io Sky, perfect choice to win the Money in the Bank. There was no other woman that should have won Money in the Bank besides Io Sky. Because I've been saying it for months. Damage Control is a... Oh, I'm going to say it. Damage Control is a failed experiment. And it's time to break away Io Sky away from Damage Control and let Io Sky go on her own the way we knew her as when she was down in NXT, when she was, of course, Io Shirai. She is going to, I guarantee you, she's definitely going to be women's champion in the next couple months. That is exactly how I see it. John Cena made an appearance on this show and basically wanted WWE to book a WrestleMania in London. Now, is WrestleMania in London official? No. It was just a scenario of, hey, WWE, hey, you should book WrestleMania in London because look at the crowds you guys have. The most passionate wrestling fans in the world, and you guys don't even book a WrestleMania for London. So it's very interesting. You know, I see a lot of discourse and a lot of discussion. I was involved in the discussion as to why we're talking about a WrestleMania in London and why apparently we're going to be getting it. But it looks like we're not going to be getting a WrestleMania in London anytime soon because it's not officially announced. Not only that, we got WrestleMania in Philadelphia next year, and most likely for WrestleMania 41, I believe it is, probably it's going to be in Las Vegas because I believe that was a bidder. Because people need to realize, WWE, now when it comes to WrestleMania, WrestleMania is a show that is bid on by a lot of cities. The reason why Philadelphia got WrestleMania for next year is because they were the highest bidder. WWE will only book a show or book a city for WrestleMania if they get paid the most money, because now WrestleMania is such a big event that, you know, they are in the position of doing that. So honestly, in the position that WrestleMania is right now, you know, we're probably not going to be getting a WrestleMania in London anytime soon. But I will say the idea of WrestleMania in London is 100% phenomenal. But of course, we also had Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor. Not the best match. Of course, Seth Rollins got the win. They definitely teased a Damian Priest cash-in, but they are building further and further and further for that. So I love the long term when it comes to Damian Priest and Finn Balor because there's clearly some tension over there. We also had, of course, Cody Rhodes versus Dominic Mysterio. Again, another pretty underwhelming match, but really the main story of the whole match was not really the match itself. It was really the crowd reaction. If you really think about it, it was really the crowd reaction. But overall, Money in the Bank was a phenomenal show. I love when WWE goes to these international markets like Cardiff, London, you know, Puerto Rico, all these different places. They honestly, man, they always knock it out of the park. Montreal. WWE is really, you know, again, I talked about this right in the beginning. WWE has mastered the idea of what a pay-per-view should be in 2023, if you really think about it. Not to knock anything away from AEW, because they pull out banger pay-per-views. I don't give a shit what anybody says, but when it comes into 2023, WWE, man, they really stepped it up when it came to their pay-per-views. I'm not to say that they haven't stepped it up at all, because they really started stepping up when it came to their pay-per-views last year. But this year, man, they were on a completely fucking different level. Say what you want about the weekly shows, and trust me, there's a lot of negatives when it comes to the weekly shows. But when it comes to the pay-per-view / PLEs, WWE literally always gives you a home run. Really, Royal Rumble, Elimination Chamber, WrestleMania's Nights 1 and 2, Backlash, now Money in the Bank. Bro, these guys are 100% just giving y'all a home run, man. I absolutely love it. But this is, of course, your Money in the Bank pay-per-view. Of course, coming to us from the O2 Arena in London. I am of course, Flamin' Ricky DeRays, right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast. Before we go in depth with Money in the Bank, make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc Podcast right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And As the freaking referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. And as the freaking referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Jesus Christ, did I say that twice? I said that twice. I am literally exhausted because I was supposed to actually film this review yesterday, but I ran into one small problem. I didn't have access to my webcam because I took my webcam to work because I actually work at a radio station and I wanted to film an air check, which I actually did not film an air check for myself. And what happened? I left the webcam at my job. So thankfully I went back and got it. Now I have the webcam for you guys. But that was a small little problem, and I didn't want to do an audio-only show because I really wanted to show myself speaking to you guys right front and center. But, of course, Money in the Bank, I have the review right now, and it's definitely going to be up. It's already up on the channel for those of you guys that are watching this review. But, yeah, that was my small hiccup right there, but we're going to knock it out of the park when it comes to this Money in the Bank pay-per-view. Also, when it comes to AEW Collision, I do plan on covering AEW Collision because I did watch that show. I thought it was a great show. We're going to be getting CM Punk versus Samoa Joe in the semifinals of the Owen Hart Cup tournament this Saturday. It's going to be fucking awesome to see, man. Awesome. Punk versus Joe 4. I'm 100% down for that, but we're going to be talking about that on the Collision review. Hopefully, I will be uploading that tomorrow. But if you guys haven't checked out anything that's been going on the WrestleHavoc podcast, of course, I uploaded the SmackDown review. I talk about the Bloodline exploding before Money in the Bank. Of course, it was the go-home show at the O2 Arena. Back-to-back sellouts for WWE at the London O2 Arena. I thought this was a great show. That closing segment was amazing. And, of course, the match that we got when it came to the Usos versus Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa absolutely knocked it out of the park. But if you guys haven't checked out the SmackDown review, the link will be in the description below. Also, episode 20 of the WrestleHavoc podcast is up on the channel. I talk about who we all know should win Money in the Bank, and it's not Logan Paul. It should be LA Knight. But looking at the outcome of what we got on this Money in the Bank pay-per-view, it is not LA Knight. Neither it's not Logan Paul, or neither it's Logan Paul, I should say. It is Damian Priest. So if you guys haven't checked out episode 20 of the WrestleHavoc podcast, the links for both the SmackDown review and episode 20 will be in the link in the description below. All right, let's go and discuss Money in the Bank 2023. The show kicks off with the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. LA Knight, Logan Paul, Santos Escobar of the LWO, Butch from the Brawling Brutes, Shinsuke Nakamura, Ricochet, and Judgment Day's Damian Priest are all the members involved in this Money in the Bank ladder match. Overall, man, thoughts on this ladder match as a whole? Pure chaos. That's really the best explanation that I can give you when it comes to, this whole match that went down. Some of the spots were absolutely brutal in this match. Absolutely, 100% brutal. And honestly, man, LA Knight, man. LA Knight was the most over guy in this whole match. And the guy that got the most heat, none other than Logan Paul. So pretty hilarious right there that the crowd absolutely shit on Logan Paul, but loved LA Knight. We're going to go through the match. Of course, right in the beginning of the match, the wrestlers surround Logan Paul in the ring. They end up ganging up on Logan Paul, and then we get repeated stomps on Paul. Logan then gets taken to the outside, and then we get a dropkick by Santos Escobar. After that, Escobar goes for a right hand on Butch, but then Logan Paul goes back into the ring. He climbs the ladder, but then Shinsuke Nakamura comes in. He proceeds to go after Paul. Priest then comes in and hits a high kick. After that, Priest hits, or I should say Priest has a ladder. Santos, Ricochet, and Butch pull him back, but then we get a super kick by Ricochet. LA Knight then comes in to a huge fucking pop with the crowd. After that, we get a DDT by LA Knight. We get a high kick by Shinsuke. We get a series of boos by the crowd. Nakamura drives his knee onto the head of Priest into the corner, but then we get a head scissors by Ricochet or a Hurricane Rana. After that, we get the head scissors on Butch, but both Shinsuke and Butch basically take down Ricochet. Shinsuke and Butch fight it out, but then Santos ends up going for a frog splash off the top. Butch goes for the Hurricane Rana. Logan Paul comes in, huge boos, and he sends Santos to the ladder. And then he proceeds to climb the ladder, but Ricochet, Butch, LA Knight, and Shinsuke Nakamura come in. They all gang up on Logan Paul once again. Yes, nobody likes Logan Paul. Butch takes out the ladder to the outside, and then he takes out another table. Then, after that, he grabs, I believe it's called a cricket bat, and then he hits everybody with it, and then he climbs the ladder, but then Damian Priest comes in. Damian Priest gets sent to the outside, and then we get the rolling elbow by Priest. He is about to attack Logan Paul. Logan stops him, but then he wants Priest and himself to work together. So Logan Paul is, trying to communicate and like, yeah, we can work together. But then both men set each other, basically they set each other's ladders next to one another. Butch proceeds to enter the fray, but then Logan offers a high five on Priest, but instead he gets hit with a right hand. And then Priest sends Logan over the steel steps. Priest takes Butch for a powerbomb, but then Santos hits the tope suicida. Once we're back into the ring, LA Knight and Ricochet are fighting it out. Ricochet then launches himself through the ladder onto the outside, but then LA Knight climbs the ladder. Logan goes for a rushing leg sweep off the ladder, which looked fucking crazy. Then he drops the ladder on LA Knight. At this point, Priest is on the apron, but then he gets taken out. Priest, after that, falls into a right on the outside. Or I should say, Logan Paul falls into a right hand on the outside by Priest. Priest then sets up the steel steps, but then he sets the ladder in between the ring apron and the, of course, steel steps. He tries to suplex Logan Paul, but then Butch enters the fray. And then he stomps on the head of Priest, but then Shinsuke comes in. Logan Paul, this was one of the craziest spots of the entire night. Logan Paul goes for a fucking frog splash on Priest on the ladder. I believe it was on both Butch and Priest. And that was fucking brutal. Or I believe it was just on Damian Priest, and that was a later spot that I mentioned. But Logan Paul goes for a frog splash on the goddamn ladder. Brutal. We get a bunch of "You Still Suck" chants by the crowd. Once we're back into the ring, Shinsuke and Ricochet set up the ladder, and then we get a series of right hands by Ricochet. He then hits a kick on Shinsuke, but then Shinsuke takes Ricochet to the second ladder. And then after that, he hits a sliding German suplex on Ricochet. LA Knight comes in to, once again, a huge pop. And then he picks up LA Knight. He ends up hitting the DDT, that being Shinsuke Nakamura. Shinsuke climbs the ladder, and then Santos also climbs the ladder. And then after that, Shinsuke targets the arm of Santos Escobar. Butch is on top of Santos. He applies a sleeper onto the chin of Santos Escobar. At this point, both men are on the second ladder, but then Ricochet then hits a goddamn 450 splash on Butch on the fucking ladder. A 450 splash. Michael Cole on commentary went fucking ballistic. After that, everybody is in the ring. A brawl breaks loose. Butch climbs the ladder. After that, Priest plants Butch down to the mat, but then Priest climbs the ladder. LA Knight comes in to, once again, a huge pop. He suplexes Priest down. At this point, Logan Paul is on the second rope, and then he ends up hitting the blockbuster. Ricochet then immediately goes for a shooting star. Ricochet climbs the ladder, and after that, Santos Escobar randomly comes in with the Phantom Driver. And then Santos climbs the ladder, but then Nakamura takes him down. And then Nakamura drives his knees on Santos, but then Butch drives Shinsuke to the outside. Butch sets up the ladder on the outside, and then he climbs the ladder. And he hits a moonsault on everybody. Butch climbs the ladder. Once again, Logan hits a right hand. He climbs the ladder, but then Ricochet comes in. We get a kick by Ricochet on Logan, and then we get a shot by Logan on Ricochet. Logan climbs the ladder, but then Santos Escobar comes in. Shinsuke Nakamura comes in. He proceeds to take him out. Escobar comes back and climbs him up once again. Then after that, both men are on top of the ladder. LA Knight, he comes in again. Huge pop by the crowd. Every time when LA Knight entered the fray in any scenario during this match, bro, the crowd went fucking apeshit. He uses the ladder that he has as a weapon. After that, he climbs on his own ladder. Then we get repeated rights on Santos. Santos goes for a Hurricane Rana on LA Knight. At this point, Shinsuke is on the ladder, but then both Logan Paul and Ricochet leap on the ladder, and then at this point, everybody is on top of the ladder. LA Knight, who is not on a ladder, drops Escobar and Nakamura. Logan Paul and Ricochet are then fighting it out, and then LA Knight just pushes the ladder, doesn't give a shit. Ricochet ends up going later on for a Spanish fly on Logan Paul through both tables. That was a brutal, brutal, brutal spot. I know everybody's talking about the Tiger Driver 91 spot that Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega did, but nobody is talking about this spot. Like, seriously, dude, that was a crazy, crazy, crazy ass spot. They definitely planned it out, but still, that looked very shocking to me. LA Knight is in the ring. LA Knight and Butch climb the ladder, but then both go for a series of exchanges. LA Knight tries to suplex Butch, but then Butch twists his fingers, Priest comes in, and Priest pushes Butch through the ladder. LA Knight comes in, he pulls him down, and then he takes him to the outside. Santos comes in, but then LA Knight ends up hitting the BFT. After that, LA Knight climbs the ladder. Damian Priest comes in. Knight tries to fight back, but then Priest drops LA Knight with the broken arrow. Priest climbs the ladder. Then he grabs the briefcase. Damian Priest is the new 2023 Mr. Money in the Bank. Overall, thoughts on this whole match. Number one, this was a great ladder match to kick off Money in the Bank. I thought this was great. I thought everything, was paced very well. I thought some of the spots were just out of this fucking world. Also, I just thought, the amount of, I don't know how to put it in better words, and this is probably not plain English that I'm speaking to you guys of, but the amount of overness that LA Knight has with the crowd in London goes to show you how big of a star this guy is being treated by the audience. The audience absolutely loves LA Knight, and it was very disappointing for a lot of the fans, and even myself, that he didn't get to win the Money in the Bank ladder match. But I will say, if it wasn't going to be LA Knight, it was definitely going to be Damian Priest. And I don't give a shit what anybody says, and trust me, I would have loved for LA Knight to win the match. But it makes sense for Damian Priest to win the Money in the Bank because there is a built-in story, and WWE clearly wants to go forward with this Bloodline story. Not Bloodline, because they're already doing the Bloodline storyline. They clearly want to go forward with this Judgment Day story with the tension with Damian Priest and Finn Balor, and of course possibly a future babyface run with Damian Priest when he leaves or gets executed by the Judgment Day. And then you have a one-on-one feud between, of course, Damian Priest and Finn Balor. But not only that, the guy that replaces Damian Priest is, of course, none other than JD McDonough. But we're going to have to wait and see. Of course, WWE is definitely building this thing up slowly. They're not going to go immediately out of nowhere and just do all this crazy, shocking shit. No, they are going to go slow with this. They are going long-term when it comes to this storyline, when it comes to Damian Priest and Finn Balor. Now, Damian Priest has the Money in the Bank. When is he going to cash in? That is the biggest question. We have no idea. The biggest creative advantage that you have when it comes to the Money in the Bank is the fact that you have a whole year to really map this shit out. You have a whole year to do it. And now, look, there's a new rule that you could literally cash in on any other champion. You could cash in on the IC champion, the US champion. But no, I think he's going to cash in on the World Heavyweight Championship. He's not going to cash in on Roman. If anybody thinks Damian Priest is going to cash in on Roman, clearly is brain dead. Because in no fucking chance that's going to happen. He's definitely going to be cashing in for the World Heavyweight Championship. When is that going to be? We do not know. Is he going to successfully cash in? I believe he will successfully cash in because in the last few years, every time when a guy won the Money in the Bank, he ended up, failing to cash in the contract. I believe the last successful contract, now I completely forgot who won last year. Oh, yeah, I forgot. Austin Theory. Yeah, Austin Theory won last year, and he immediately lost his cash in. Not only that, when it came to, I believe the last true cash in when it came to the Money in the Bank was 2 years ago, when Biggie won the WWE title. That was a phenomenal moment, but I didn't really like how they were booking his title run. And his title run really lasted short if you really think about it. But Damian Priest winning, if it wasn't going to be LA Knight, it was definitely going to be Damian Priest. At least they did not put the Money in the Bank briefcase on a guy like Logan Paul. If they had put the Money in the Bank briefcase on a guy like Logan Paul, this would have been 100% disastrous, in my opinion. Damian Priest is definitely the right man to win Money in the Bank. Would I have personally wanted LA Knight to win? Yes, I wouldn't have had no problem. I'd have no problem with LA Knight winning Money in the Bank. But if it wasn't going to be LA Knight, it was definitely going to be Damian Priest. And now Damian Priest is your new 2023 Mr. Money in the Bank. In our second match of the evening, we have Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler taking on Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. Of course, Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler are the unified WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, holding both the WWE and NXT Women's Tag Team Championships. How many times I've said Women's Tag Team Championships? This is like the fourth time I said that term. But what are my thoughts on this match? it wasn't that bad of a match, but really the story of the match was not really the match itself. It's basically what happened near the well, it is what happened in the match itself, but it's what happened near the end of the match. Of course, where Shayna Baszler turned on Ronda Rousey, and it looks like we're going to be getting a one-on-one match between Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey. Let's go through the match a little bit. I'm not really going to go through everything. Well, maybe I am, but Shayna and Liv start the match. Shayna stomps on Liv. We got a shotgun drop kick by Liv. We got a Hurricane Rana by Liv on Baszler. Liv hits an enziguri, taking her to the outside, but then Raquel sends Ronda to the outside. Later on, Ronda picks up Liv, and then she drops her on both heels on the outside, and on both heels on the outside, or baby faces. Liv goes to the top, but then she takes out Ronda, but then Shayna comes in. We get a series of stomps on Liv's arm. At this point, later on, Ronda ragdolls Liv Morgan. Then we get a sliding kick by Shayna later on. Liv goes for repeated right hands. Shayna stomps Liv from trying to tag in Raquel. And then Shayna gets pulled away by Liv Morgan, but then Ronda tags in. She applies the ankle lock. We got a roll-up by Liv and a near fall. Then after that, Liv goes for the Jersey code breaker. Raquel tags in. We get a lariat by Raquel, and then Shayna ends up going for the follow-away slam. After that, she hits a power slam on Ronda. Or I should say, we get a follow-away slam on Shayna by Raquel. And then she hits a power slam on Ronda. We get a cover by Raquel and a near fall. Raquel goes on the second rope, but then Ronda comes in. She applies the arm bar on Raquel, but then Raquel hits a power bomb countering Ronda Rousey. We then get a cover into near fall when Shayna makes the save. Liv tags in. She hits a crossbody. After that, Shayna applies a submission, but then Ronda applies the ankle lock at the same time. Raquel makes the save. We then get an enziguri by Liv on Shayna, but then Ronda drags Raquel to the outside. Then Raquel gets sent to the ring post, and then Liv gets caught into a German suplex, applies the Karabuta clutch, but then Liv gets back up on her feet. She escapes. Ronda tags in. Shayna then attacks Ronda from behind, and then she applies the Karabuta clutch on Ronda. Shayna leaves the ring, but then Raquel goes for the tag, and then Raquel ends up going for the Tahana Bomb. After that, Liv goes for the Oblivion, and we get a cover, and Liv and Raquel win the tag team championship. So Shayna leaves the ring, turning on Ronda Rousey. What are my thoughts on this? Overall, man, this was kind of unexpected, and as I was reading these notes, honestly, it goes to show you my clear reaction. Like this honestly came unexpected. Did it add shock value? Yes, it did. But honestly, am I going to be invested in a Shayna Baszler versus Ronda Rousey feud? No, but it gives some sort of direction on what they could be doing with Shayna Baszler at the end of the day. But am I going to be invested in a full Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey feud? No, not really. I think it's going to be a great match, but I'm not going to be fully invested in that. But really, if you think about it, I feel like the main reason as to why they did this is because, I mean, there's been a lot of reports about Ronda Rousey's future in WWE and how she's going to be done with WWE. What if Ronda Rousey's last WWE match is going to be at SummerSlam, and we get Shayna Baszler versus Ronda Rousey? I mean, the story is absolutely there, so I wouldn't really be against that idea. But is it something that I am really invested in? No, because I genuinely believe Ronda Rousey's recent run, you know, ever since she returned last year to WWE, I thought it has been absolutely atrocious. Honestly, everything that woman has done ever since she came back in 2022 has been absolutely fucking forgettable. And I mean that with the utmost respect. You know, Ronda Rousey, she just does not sound genuine on the microphone. Her promos were atrocious. Her in-ring work is great, but the promos that she cuts are just not that good whatsoever. So, honestly, with Shayna turning on Ronda, it makes sense, but it's something that I'm not really going to care as much for. But it gives the women's division a feud, like, you know, kind of like a blood feud if you really think about it, because there's not really that much feuds going on in the women's division right now. So now we have Ronda versus Shayna as another feud added to the women's division. Damian Priest is backstage, talks about how it's Senior Money in the Bank, and he's going to think a lot about his cash-in. Talks about how he can cash in and become IC champion, US champion, World Heavyweight champion, and undisputed WWE World Heavyweight champion. One thing that's for sure, though, he will be a champion. After that, we got Gunther versus Matt Riddle for the Intercontinental Championship. This was a relatively match that, you know, this was a relatively short match if you really think about it. Usually when it comes to Gunther matches, these matches can take place roughly around 20 to 25 minutes when it comes to like a major Gunther match on a pay-per-view. I believe this match lasted at least like 15 minutes. I got to look back at this match, honestly. But it wasn't a bad match. And really the story of this match, really didn't involve Riddle. It involved what happened after the match. Of course, that is the return of the Scottish Warrior himself, Drew McIntyre. But we're going to go through this match. Gunther misses a chop. Riddle tries to go for a submission, but then Gunther goes for a slam. We get a sleeper by Matt Riddle. After that, we get a back elbow by Gunther, but then Gunther gets caught into an armbar. After that, he kicks. We get a series of kicks by Riddle on Gunther. Gunther catches Riddle, but then we get a right hand. Gunther then hits a chop on Riddle. Gunther is known for his chops. He proceeds to boot Riddle, and then we get an overhand chop once again in the corner. Gunther goes for repeated chops, and then Riddle goes for repeated overhand chops. Riddle goes for a kick to the face, and then he hits an elbow into the corner. He then tries to go for an exploder, but then Gunther holds on. But later, Riddle catches Gunther and applies a leg bar. Gunther then stands up and hits repeated stomps on Riddle. And then Gunther drives his knees on Riddle. We get a series of chops and kicks by Riddle. Gunther then sweeps Riddle down to the mat, but then basically he, straps the tape off of the foot of Riddle. After that, he drives his injured foot down, and that was basically the foot that Riddle was selling throughout the majority of this whole match. He drived the injured foot of Riddle down to the mat. He drives his knees onto the injured foot. After that, we get a knee by Riddle on Gunther. Gunther ends up hitting a German suplex. Gunther then targets the ankle of Riddle, but then we get a chop by Riddle, but Gunther still has it applied. Riddle then stomps onto the chest of Gunther, breaking away from the submission. Then Riddle goes for the suplex, but then Riddle tries to go for the Broton, but instead gets caught by Gunther. Riddle rolls through, but then we get a near fall. Riddle then lands on his feet and hits a... he lands on his feet from a German suplex by Gunther. Riddle then sells his foot at this point. Gunther goes for a mega lariat. And then we get a knee by Riddle, and then we get a cover into near fall. We get a running kick. After that, Riddle goes to the top, and then he hits the floating bro. We get a cover by Riddle and a near fall, but then Riddle gets him up. Then Gunther hits a chop. Gunther goes for a splash, but then gets caught with a triangle. Gunther hits the powerbomb, but then we get a cover, and he is not done. He applies a half Boston Crab, or a one-legged Boston Crab, whatever you want to call it. Gunther then slaps the foot of Riddle and then applies the ankle lock on Riddle. And after he applies the ankle lock, Riddle taps out, and Gunther wins and retains the Intercontinental Championship and the reign of, I don't want to say reign of terror, but the dominant run that is Gunther's IC title reign is continuing, and there are no there's no signs of that slowing it down. After the match, of course, Drew McIntyre comes out. The crowd is just singing his name, and when Drew came out, that was 100% unexpected because, of course, there's been a lot of reports on Drew McIntyre and his status with WWE. Now, I was one of those people that wouldn't shy away from the fact that, when Drew McIntyre's contract would be up, he'd leave and go to AEW. I was actually one of those people that actually thought, look, Drew McIntyre is 100% a WWE lifer at this point, but who knows what's in the head of Drew McIntyre. Both Gunther and Drew McIntyre face off. Gunther shoves the face of McIntyre, but then Drew goes for a headbutt, and then he ends up hitting the Claymore kick, 1, 2, 3, and then Claymore. And Drew McIntyre stands tall, basically, giving us a teaser for what we're probably going to be seeing, or what most likely we are going to be seeing with Drew McIntyre taking on Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. Overall, great stuff. Great moment. I love the fact that Drew McIntyre is back. We still do not know his status when it comes to WWE. I mean, from what it looks like his return, he's definitely going to be staying. I do not believe he will be going to AEW once his contract is up, and I believe his contract is up maybe late this year, early next year. But still, we do not know the situation at hand. And apparently there were some money issues when it came to Drew McIntyre and WWE, creative issues. Now they're putting Drew McIntyre in a full-on creative position. Well, not a creative position, but a position in which he's not, underutilized. He's in a storyline right now with Gunther. And I think a feud between Gunther and Drew McIntyre would be great because it gives something for Drew McIntyre to do. Could Drew McIntyre be the guy to beat Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship? Possibly. And then after, Gunther loses, that Intercontinental Championship, you can then move on. If you think about it, you can then move on to building up Gunther once again. But if you really think, Gunther would be already built up even if he lost the IC title. If he lost, he would lose strong, and then you can then build him up to go after the World Heavyweight Championship. Because we all know at this point Gunther is going to be a world champion either next year or by the end of this year. It's just fact at this point. But great seeing Drew McIntyre back. We got Cody Rhodes versus Dominic Mysterio. Overall, man, this was a pretty underwhelming match. I remember there's a lot of stories, a lot of people on social media on Friday talking about how this match was going to main event Money in the Bank. Thank Christ that did not happen. It'd be really stupid on WWE's part to put this match in the main event, because we all know the biggest story in WWE, but the biggest story in wrestling that's going on right now, the Bloodline, that should main event Money in the Bank. Loud boos for Dominic Mysterio. We get a right hand by Dominic. Dominic retreats to the outside, and then we get basically Cody chasing Dominic. Once we're back into the ring, Dominic goes for a slap on Cody, but then Cody rips off his cast on his arm, or rips the cast from his arm. Dominic runs towards the entrance, but then Cody chases him. Cody sends Dominic into the ring, but then we get a series of right hands by Cody, and then we get repeated stomps by Cody into the corner. Cody picks up Dominic, and then he hits a running power slam on Dominic. Cody takes Dominic for the crossroads, but then Dominic once again retreats to the outside. Cody sends Dominic over the barricade, and then Cody picks him up. He lands on his feet, but then Rhea blocks Cody, protecting Dominic. After that, Dominic is back into the ring. Dominic ends up loosening the turnbuckle pad, and then the referee at this point is distracted, and Rhea takes out Cody on the outside. Dominic ends up going for a tope suicida. Dominic later on sends Cody to the announce table. After that, Dominic drives the head of Cody onto the announce table. And we got Dominic's a wanker chant. Oh, Dominic's a wanker chant. We got a bunch of chants on this show, man. The crowd was singing Cody, Cody Rhodes, Cody, Cody Rhodes. They were chanting Cody's name, man. They were even singing Cody Rhodes' theme song. Fucking awesome. Go show you how over Cody Rhodes is at this point. But Cody is back into the ring. Dominic goes for a right hand, but then Dominic runs into the corner. He lands on his feet, but then we get a corkscrew elbow by Dominic, and then he applies the side headlock, and then we get a bunch of Cody Rhodes chants by the crowd. At this point, Dominic goes for the Three Amigos, but then Cody slams him down in retaliation. Cody takes out Dominic, but then Cody ends up going for the power slam. He ends up going for the disaster kick. He goes for the cover and a kick out. At this point, Rhea's on the apron. We get a roll up by Dominic, and we get a near fall. Then we get a drop kick. At this point, Cody's on the middle rope. He catches Dominic with a 619 attempt, and then Cody goes for a spinning Alabama slam. After that, Cody goes for the Cody cutter, and then hits the crossroads, and then we get a cover, and Cody Rhodes wins this match. Overall, thoughts on this match? I thought this match was okay. Did it live up to the expectations? Absolutely not. I definitely 100% expected Cody Rhodes to win this match. If they had Dominic win this match, I wouldn't be mad, but again, to me, it would have been a little bit off. But overall, Cody Rhodes, if you really think about it, was definitely the right guy to win. There was a lot of reports on Brock Lesnar possibly showing up on this show, but we got no Brock Lesnar. So it looks like we're still going to be getting that match, but we still got no Brock Lesnar, and I'd rather, build up for SummerSlam, but we're probably going to be getting that in the next couple of TVs in the leading weeks. But the match itself, not the best match. Really, the story of the whole match was the crowd, man. The crowd was all over Cody Rhodes. Like, bro, they were singing his theme song. They were saying his name on a constant basis. Dominic, they were calling him a wanker. You got to love the UK fans at this point. You just really do. After that, John Cena appears out of nowhere. Nobody knew that John Cena was going to be showing up. And it shocked me, man. John Cena's promo almost nearly brought a tear to my eye because this man is my fucking childhood. But John Cena has the microphone, and he says, surprise. He thinks that's one surprise because he's used to hearing John Cena sucks. And he says, y'all flipped it around. You act like, my time is now. Let's go Cena sucks chance. Look at you guys. This is the first PLE in London in over 20 years. He looks around and hears already the noise and energy. And he asks himself, what the hell it took us so long to spend some time with you, right? Look around. And then it hit him. And it isn't up to him, of course, it's up to the decision makers. And we get a boo by the crowd. They don't know how to feel about London. They think this is a hostile environment, and they think sometimes they can be a distraction. They can even think that, they're trying to take over the show. You see that? They don't know what they're talking about. They're the voice. They are the heartbeat. We aren't trying to take over the show. We are the show. That was a great line by John Cena, and everything that John Cena stated in that line right there was absolutely true. Absolutely true, bro. We are the show. If the crowd is fully invested in what you're watching and the crowd is just absolutely going ballistic in the crowd, and chanting all these different things, it goes to show you that they care about what they watch. Absolutely truth statement right there by the one and only John Cena. And then he says, so why is he here? He is here on behalf of all of you guys. He outshined his shoes in the ring because he knows the world is watching. He wants to know that the fans are underappreciated. And he is here tonight. And because we all know he is big on respect, because of all of us, we earned his respect. And then, we get a bunch of thank you Cena chants. And then Cena continues on. And he says, another thing that, when we stop and they allow them to do that, but how much fun is it on a night like this? We cheer, we chant, and we care. But there's nothing more than the exciting audience than in the United Kingdom. So he is here to bring WrestleMania to London. And then Cena states he struck a nerve on that, didn't he? He's here right now, not for one more match. He's here because when they play those trumpets, he wants to give the audience a chance to tell the world what we already know. Let him see. Let him feel. Let him hear what WrestleMania is going to sound like in London. And what happens? Grayson Waller comes out. The douchebag himself. I ain't a big fan of Grayson Waller. I think he's talented, but you guys know my thoughts on Grayson Waller. I am not the biggest Grayson Waller fan. He comes out and he says, whoa, John Cena. What an absolute honor, mate. He would introduce himself, but everybody knows who he is. Of course, he hopes he doesn't want to interrupt, but he has major respect for him. He loves everything about him. The jorts. Everybody loves the jorts. The movies. We get a bunch of shut the fuck up chants by the crowd in London. He watched all of his movies, and his performance in Scooby-Doo the movie, man, it had him tearing up. But what he loves the most about him is the whole hustle, loyalty, and respect thing he does, which is why he's disappointed. WrestleMania in England? You got to be kidding me, lad. These people cheer who they are supposed to dislike, and that's a real cutting edge. Never mind it's supposed to be summer. It's been cold over here. If WrestleMania is overseas, it needs to be somewhere beautiful. Good weather, nice beaches. And we get a series of boos by the crowd. And then he says, it needs to go somewhere like Australia. And after that, he says he can see it now. WrestleMania Australia. Aussie. I think he tried to pull one up on Aussie Open right there, but it ain't working. Every time Aussie Open comes out, we would get those Aussie chants, but it ain't working for Grayson Waller. I'm sorry. And then we get a bunch of wanker chants. Wanker. You're such a wanker, mate. You're such a wanker. And then after that, Grayson says, trust him. He doesn't need to. Don't stress. He thinks he forgot, a spot on the show. Things haven't been going so well for him. The last time we saw him, he lost to Theory and Roman. Of course, he lost to Theory at WrestleMania and Roman Reigns at SummerSlam 2 years ago. Oh, but he also lost to the Fiend at WrestleMania. But it's okay. These people are simple, and they only remember the last thing that they saw. All he needs is one viral moment. And if anyone knows viral moments, it's him. And he needs to let him be Superman. He's helped so many people. Let him help to save his career. Think about it. The biggest Grayson Waller effect of all time with his guest, John Cena. At WrestleMania Australia, He isn't asking London. He is asking John. And then we get a bunch of no chants by the amazing crowd in beautiful London, England. So, and then after that, you know, he says, so what he's hearing from him is no in Mania in London, says Cena, and wants him to fly to Australia to get a rub from Grayson Waller. And then John is like, yeah, I'm going to pass. And then he walks off. And then Grayson gets pissed and says, no one says no to the Grayson Waller effect. And then after that, John is like, say it again. And then Cena says he can enjoy, you know, time with his friends, but he's busy letting, you know, everybody know that WrestleMania is being in London, you know, that WrestleMania should be in London. And after that, Grayson Waller proceeds to attack Cena. Cena then fights back and ends up hitting, and I'm not going to call this the Attitude Adjustment. I refuse to call this shit the Attitude Adjustment. Cena picks him up and hits the goddamn FU. I will call forever in my life. We'll call the Attitude Adjustment the FU because that was the original move of John Cena. That was what the Attitude Adjustment was originally called, the FU. He hit the FU on Grayson Waller. Overall, my apologies if I botched a little bit with my notes here because my notes are fucking terrible. But overall thoughts on this John Cena promo. I thought this was a great promo. Definitely unexpected by everybody. We did not know John Cena was going to be showing up on this show. And it's great seeing John Cena, man. You know, John Cena, if you really think about it, he is such a great ambassador for WWE. And he's such a big name outside of WWE. It's just crazy to think at this point. But we didn't get no one last match. We do not know. You know, at this point, John Cena will make appearances, you know, when he needs to for like big events, you know, shows like SummerSlam, shows like WrestleMania, those types of shows. But we didn't get like a match announcement or anything. It was just kind of an, I don't want to say endorsement, but like kind of like a suggestion on, hey, you guys should bring WrestleMania to London. Now, do I think WrestleMania will be going to London anytime soon? I do not think so. But at the end of the day, it's up to who is the highest bidder because people need to realize WWE does not, you know, choose shows because they want to go to that set show. They choose, or I should say the city. They choose the city because, you know, they could be the highest bidder. WrestleMania nowadays is a show that, you know, is bid on. You know, a lot of cities bid for a show like WrestleMania. Philadelphia won the bid, and they are going to be getting WrestleMania 40 next year, which I hope to God I attend because Philadelphia is literally an hour away from where I'm at. So hopefully, you know, I go to WrestleMania. But again, you know, it all depends on the bidders. I believe London tried to, you know, bid for Clash at the Castle, but instead Cardiff actually paid them more to have the show in Cardiff. So honestly, are we going to be getting a WrestleMania in London? Hopefully. Do I think now? No. But really, the next big show in London, I don't know if you guys heard, but it's this little show happening at Wembley Stadium, you know, the same stadium that, you know, Freddie Mercury, you know, performed at the Live Aid. Yeah, it's a little show called All In. You know, that's going to be your WrestleMania for London. But no, not to knock against Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank was awesome. Okay, it's fucking awesome. It just gave you a glimpse of what the UK crowd is really going to be for All In my opinion. But the crowd is phenomenal. But still, I think WrestleMania deserves to be in London. They should have done this shit years ago, but WWE just decided not to, probably because of the time difference. But WWE has been going to all of these different international markets, you know, for years now. You know, more so this year and last year. And they're only growing, you know, their audience just by going to these international markets. It is a smart business move, especially to take a show like WrestleMania and move it, you know, not move it, but like, you know, take it to London. I think WrestleMania absolutely deserves London. Do I think it will be happening anytime soon? No, I don't. But I do expect it to happen some way, shape, or form in the future. So those are my thoughts on that John Cena promo that went down on Money in the Bank. All right, we got the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. We got Becky Lynch, Io Sky, Bayley, Trish Stratus, Zoe Stark, and Zelina Vega. This was a great match, a great ladder match in my opinion. I enjoyed it. You know, at first in the beginning stages of the match, I wasn't really that invested, but as soon as all the crazy spots transpired, then I really started to get hooked, and I absolutely loved the finish. of the match when it came to Bayley, Becky Lynch, and Io Sky. The finish was so fucking creative, and it was the best way for Io Sky to win this match. Bayley, one thing I believe I didn't mention on my SmackDown review is the Bayley, man. They were singing along that old Bayley song, man, when she was a babyface, when she was the hugger, of course. Hey, Bayley, ooh, I want to know if you can be my girl. Those types of, the crowd was singing that, bro, and Bayley was a heel, bro. The funniest shit ever. But let's go through the match. We got a Meteora by Zelina on Bayley. Bayley gets sent to the ladder, but then we get a spinning kick by Starks on Bayley. After that, Io lands on top of the ladder. She goes to the apron, but then Zoe catches her and bounces Io on the ladder. After that, Trish and Zoe take out another ladder. Becky then takes them both out, and then we get a super kick by Zoe on Becky. Trish then is on the ladder, then she goes back into the ring. Trish then gets the ladder, and then the ladder at this point is set up into the center of the ring. Bayley and Io, then what happens is they both drive Trish and Zoe off the ladder. We get a knee by Zelina. Damage Control end up ganging up on Zelina Vega, but then Bayley sets up the ladder. Zelina takes her out. Zelina then climbs the ladder, but then Io comes in. We get the head scissors by Zelina, and then we get she proceeds to climb the ladder once again. Bayley then enters the fray. Both members of Damage Control drive both of the arms of Io on the ladder into the center, but then Bayley and Io try to position the ladder. Then after that, Becky comes in. She takes out Bayley, and then they try to take out Io, but then Becky climbs the ladder. Becky then drives Zoe Stark face first onto the ladder, and then we get repeated kicks by Becky on Zoe. Becky then climbs the ladder, and then she traps Zoe, and then she applies the disarmor. After that, Trish tries to go for the head scissors, sending Becky into the corner. Trish then climbs the ladder, and then we get the head scissors by Trish on Bayley. Io comes in. She proceeds to climb the ladder. Trish climbs the ladder once again as well. Io then gets taken down with a Trish kick, or a chick kick, I should say. Trish kick, chick kick. Then Zelina's on another ladder, but then both go for a series of exchanges. Trish then gets trapped in a bridge. Actually, no, she gets trapped on one of the ladders, and it's a fucking bridge. After that, Zelina climbs the ladder. After that, Zoe's on the top. We get an uppercut by Io, but then Becky and I believe Bayley both try to climb the ladders, but then Bayley ends up hitting an elbow drop. After that, Io goes to the top, but then Zoe and Zelina drag the ladder that Io is on. At this point, Io is on the top, and she hits a fucking moonsault on everybody. Then Trish sets the ladder up. She climbs the ladder, but then Becky comes in. She ends up hitting a right on Trish, but then both women go for a series of exchanges. After that, Trish gets dropped, and then Becky takes out Zoe and sends her to the outside. Zelina climbs the ladder and hits a crossbody on Becky Lynch. Then Io goes for the springboard, but Zelina ducks. Zelina then climbs the ladder, but then Becky and Trish take Zelina. We then get a power bomb. After that, Becky and Trish fight it out. Becky then drives Trish onto the second turnbuckle face first. Becky then positions the ladder, but then Trish comes back. Io and Bayley set another ladder onto the main ladder. At this point, it's between the ropes and the ladder. And after that, we get the Stratisfaction by Trish on Becky. Trish and Becky continue to go after one another. We get a kick by Zoe, and she drives Becky onto the ring post. Zoe then has the handcuffs, and they play a major role in the end of this match. After that, Zoe handcuffs Becky onto the ring, but then Becky tries to escape, and she does. She sends Trish onto the barricade, but then Becky exposes the announce table. Then Zoe gets placed onto the table, but then Trish and Becky are on the announce table. Becky then ends up hitting a manhandle slam on the ladder. Zoe goes for a running twisting neckbreaker off the apron onto the floor. After that, there is a ladder into the center of the ring. Zelina climbs it, but then Zoe springboards and lands on the ladder. It's not like I haven't seen that before. But then Io's in the ring. Io climbs the ladder, but then Bayley comes in and pushes Io Sky off. So when she pushes Io Sky off, they try, in a way, Bayley tried to sell it as, oh my God, I didn't know you were up there. But the commentators were even mentioning, oh my God, Bayley, how could she do this to her friend, her partner from Damage Control? She is basically fucking over Io Sky. She's fucking over her partner. After that, Bayley climbs the ladder, but then Becky comes in. Both women fight it out, and then Becky climbs the ladder. Io Sky comes back. She tries to push Becky off, but then Becky climbs back up. Becky and Bayley end up getting stuck on their respective sides of that one particular ladder that they are on. And Io Sky is in the center of it. And what happens is she ends up trying to climb up, and she does successfully. I believe she goes over Bayley and she climbs up the ladder. Fantastic stuff by Io Sky, and this was amazing. I loved this finish, and this was a very creative finish in my opinion. Io has the handcuffs, and she handcuffs Bayley and Becky, so they're both stuck, and they can't, move unless the other person moves up with them. And what happens is Io climbs the ladder, she grabs the briefcase, and now Io Sky is your 2023 Miss Money in the Bank. Overall, I thought the match was great. In the beginning, I was a little bit worried because, really I wasn't really feeling it. This show was long, but I wasn't really feeling it in the beginning stages of the match. But near the end, I really started to get invested more and more and more and more. Of course, Becky and Trish were really fighting it out throughout the majority of this whole match because they have an ongoing story going on. But really the big story is Io Sky. Io Sky was the right woman to win this Money in the Bank ladder match because, everybody else in the Money in the Bank, Zelina Vega, damn well she was not going to win. Trish would have been such a terrible decision to have win the Money in the Bank. Becky Lynch, I don't think anybody would have cared if Becky Lynch won the Money in the Bank, to be honest with you. Zoe Stark, forget about it. Io Sky was the one that made 100% total sense in this matter. And honestly, it really planted the seed for what we are going to be seeing, and we're really going to be seeing Io Sky really break out on her own. Like we know she can because she's been on her own before. It's just right now on the main roster, she is paired with Bayley and Dakota Kai, and the experiment just didn't work. We all know this. Damage control just doesn't work whatsoever, and honestly, they dropped the ball immensely with damage control. And honestly, as well, when it comes to damage control, there was no real direction for the group. There was really no direction for the group, so it looks like now they're planting the seeds to have Io Sky really split away from Bayley, and we're possibly going to be seeing a future one-on-one program with Bayley going up against Io Sky. But the right decision to make, 100% Io Sky. The finish was very, very, very creative at the end of the day, and Io Sky is your new Miss Money in the Bank for 2023. After that, we got our second to last match. We got, of course, the Seth Rollins and Finn Balor World Heavyweight Championship match. I don't want to say disappointing, but not really the best match that I honestly expected, in my opinion. Seth Rollins got the win. I wouldn't have been upset if Finn Balor got the win because if you really think about it story-wise, it would make sense. But the biggest problem if Finn Balor had won the championship is the fact that you'd have Seth Rollins drop the title way too soon. And if you really think about it, we haven't had really, how do I put it into words? Seth Rollins' title run really hasn't gotten started, if that makes any sense. I'm just creating that analogy. His title run hasn't really come into full fruition yet. But now, after this match, even though it wasn't the best, they teased a future cash-in. Not now, but they teased a future cash-in when it came to Damian Priest. So I love that dynamic right there, and it creates a lot of interesting scenarios going into the next couple of weeks on WWE television. But the crowd is singing Seth Rollins' song. Rollins goes for a takedown, and then Balor goes for repeated rights. We get a kick by Balor, and then Balor goes for a series of body shots, but then Rollins drives Balor into the corner. And then he takes him to the outside, and then Rollins goes for a tope. Both men fight it out onto the outside, but then Balor tries to send Rollins onto the steps. Rollins then stops himself and hits a clothesline on Balor. He takes him back into the ring, but then Rollins hits a leg drop. He proceeds to pick up Balor, but then Balor drives his elbows. We then get a takedown by Balor, but then both men miss their spots. We get a pedigree countered by Balor into a stomp, but then Balor goes for repeated stomps on Finn Balor. Balor goes for a shot to the back of Rollins, and then Balor continues to be in control. Once we get a cover, we get a near fall. Rollins fights back. Rollins gets driven into the corner, but then Balor takes Rollins up on the ropes. He continues to be in control over Rollins. Rollins goes to the outside, but then we get a kick by Balor onto the ribs of Seth Rollins. Rollins then gets taken back into the ring. Balor spears through Rollins in the corner. He runs into a boot, and then he hits a lariat on Balor. Both men go for a series of exchanges. We get a knee by Rollins, but then Rollins hits a kick onto the face of Balor, and then he hits a backbreaker. And then he goes for a running knee on Baszler, but then Baszler continues the stomps with a roll-up and a near fall. He takes down Rollins. We get a cover into near fall once again. Baszler continues to punish Rollins, driving his knee. After that, Baszler ends up going for the sling blade. We get a super kick by Seth. He proceeds to pick up Finn Baszler, but then Baszler hits the buckle bomb. Yes, he hits the buckle bomb in retaliation from Seth Rollins all the way back in 2016 when Seth Rollins hit that buckle bomb at the Barclays Center on Finn Baszler, basically causing, for Finn Baszler to relinquish the title the next day. So a little bit of retaliation by Finn Baszler. Great storytelling on that aspect. Rollins goes to the top, and then he hits a frog splash, but then Baszler gets the knees up, and then we get a drop kick by Baszler on Seth into the corner. Baszler then goes to the top, but then Rollins comes back. He gets dropped down. Baszler is up top. He misses the coup de grace, and then we get a stomp by Seth, but he misses. We get a roll-up by Baszler and a near fall. Rolling elbow by Seth, a kick by Baszler, enziguri by Rollins, overhead kick by Baszler, but then he got caught. Rollins ends up hitting the pedigree. Seth goes for the cover end to near fall. Damian Priest walks into the ring. And when Damian Priest walks into the ring, you know shit's about to get real. And the crowd in London chanted, "Cash it in." We get a roll-up by Baszler into near fall. Seth goes for the super kick, but then Priest is walking around just thinking, hey, should I cash this in or not? After that, what happens is Rollins looks at Priest onto the outside. So Rollins knows the game. He's like, shit, I'm fucked if he cashes in. Rollins, after that, Priest sits down ringside. Baszler ends up going for a shotgun dropkick on Rollins. He goes for the coup de grace on Rollins from the announce table. And then he hits another one from the steel steps. And then he takes Rollins back into the ring. So shades of a couple of weeks ago on Raw. He takes Rollins back into the ring. Baszler goes for the shotgun dropkick. He goes to the top, but then Priest stands up. He misses the coup de grace. Rollins goes for the curve stomp. We get a cover. And Seth Rollins retains the World Heavyweight Championship. After the match, Baszler and Priest are pissed, and they are both arguing with one another. So this is getting way more serious as the weeks will go by. Overall, this wasn't the best match of the night. It was pretty, I don't want to say disappointing, but it was pretty underwhelming if you really think about it. Not really the best match of the whole night. I thought the storytelling, though, was great. I loved the nods that they had back to their match at SummerSlam with the buckle bomb spot. I loved the spot where, Baszler went for a series of coup de graces from the announce table on the steel steps. Shades of what happened a couple of weeks ago on Raw. Great, storytelling on that aspect. The involvement of Damian Priest and just teasing a cash-in in the future, it made total sense because, of course, they want to go forward with this Judgment Day storyline. And right now, Judgment Day is in a position where they could honestly be the second faction, behind the Bloodline. Because the Bloodline is the top faction in WWE right now. But Judgment Day, I don't want to say it's a distant number two, but they're really getting closer and closer and closer. They're taking baby steps, but they're getting closer and closer and closer. And they're definitely setting themselves up as a dominant faction on WWE television right now. And with Damian Priest holding the World Heavyweight Championship or the Money in the Bank and possibly winning the World Heavyweight Championship, it definitely creates an interesting dynamic. Who knows if Seth Rollins is going to be the World Heavyweight Championship in the next couple of months? What if they end up having a rematch and Baszler takes it back, gets the win over Seth Rollins and Damian Priest cashes it in? What would happen there? Or what would happen if, maybe Damian Priest cashed it in on Seth Rollins and then Baszler just gets jealous and then they excommunicate, Damian Priest? There's a lot of interesting scenarios that you can go through when it comes to this Damian Priest storyline, but I believe Damian Priest will get kicked out of the Judgment Day. They will turn him babyface, and then, of course, they will be replacing Damian Priest for J.D. McDonough. But great developments happening on this match, but was it the best match of the night? Absolutely not. After that, we got the Bloodline Civil War. What can I say about this match? This match was phenomenal. I talk about the same thing every time when we talk about the Bloodline. But this match had great psychology. This match had great storytelling. The atmosphere was just out of this fucking world. The heat that Roman Reigns generated. He generated crazy ass heat. Not only that, you had the crowd singing, if you hate Roman, stand up. If you hate Roman, stand up. If you hate Roman, stand up. You're like, bro, this crowd ain't playing. Roman Reigns, bro, is on a different fucking level. One of the biggest positives that I always viewed this Bloodline story did, one of the biggest positives that this story ever did was elevate each other member of the Bloodline. Roman Reigns, of course, is at the top, but the storytelling that they told throughout the majority of this whole story, when it involved Sami Zayn and him being a part of the group, it elevated Sami Zayn further. It elevated Jey further. It elevated Solo, and it looks like they're planting the seeds with what they're going to be doing with Solo Sikoa, preparing him to be the next tribal chief, because that's exactly what they're doing. But also they elevated Jimmy Uso. Everybody plays a major role in this storyline. Nobody. Now, I don't want to say second fiddle, to sound like they're above Roman Reigns, but, nobody's playing second fiddle in the way of the story. Nobody's playing second fiddle. Everybody in this story has a purpose. And that is the beauty of this story that WWE is telling right now. I absolutely loved what they did here. The match was phenomenal. It started off slow, but bro, when it comes to stories in wrestling, people nowadays only view the in-ring. And look, I'm not knocking on Forbidden Door. Forbidden Door was a phenomenal in-ring show. And it also did have story. Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay. Look, I'm not going to compare Ospreay and Omega to this match. In-ring, Ospreay and Omega fucking, blew it out of the water. When it comes to story, the Bloodline Civil War was clearly the better match. But, that is not saying Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega had no story, because clearly it did. If you are one of these people on social media that think Ospreay and Omega had no story, something's clearly fucking wrong with you, because that match had phenomenal psychology and it had great storytelling. But we're not here to talk about Ospreay and Omega. We're here to talk about the Bloodline Civil War. Again, the beauty of the Bloodline storyline is that it elevates everybody, and everybody plays a major role. Nobody is, not being focused and the other guys being focused. Everybody plays a major role, and at the end of the day, all of these guys that are involved in the Bloodline, or were involved in the Bloodline, Sami Zayn, Solo Sikoa, Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, are all going to be bigger stars for it. And that is what makes this storyline stand out than any other storyline going on in wrestling right now. That's why it is the best thing going in the business today. And that's why the Bloodline Civil War was amazing. It just was amazing. The sheer thought of Roman Reigns getting pinned. On paper, it sounds really stupid. And I was very skeptical on Roman Reigns, getting pinned. I really was. I really was skeptical on Roman Reigns getting pinned. But the reaction by the crowd when Roman Reigns got pinned, I understand why they did it. Look, it may sound like a stupid decision. And trust me, in a way it kind of does. But this only elevates Jey Uso. This only elevates Jey Uso because even though he's not going to be the guy to dethrone Roman Reigns, he very well could be. But really, realistically, now looking at it, it's not going to be the case. It's probably going to be Solo Sikoa, because they really planted the seeds with Solo Sikoa being the guy, being the next tribal chief. But at the end of the day, Jey Uso pinning Roman Reigns, it created that shock value. That's what it did. It created that shock value that you just knew that, honestly, man, everything about this, holy shit, it all led to this. And now look where the Usos are. Look where Jey Uso is. Everything that he has been taught by Roman Reigns, when he first paired him with Roman Reigns, when he was first paired with Roman and he was the right-hand man, main event Jey Uso, all led to this moment, and it's only going to elevate Jey Uso even further. It's going to elevate Jey Uso further to main event status. The nickname main event Jey Uso is not just a nickname anymore. It's not a nickname anymore. It's now a fact. And it's a fact because of what happened in this photo that I'm showing to you guys right now. Everything about this was perfect. Yes, there is cons with Roman Reigns getting pinned. And the biggest con with Roman Reigns getting pinned is whoever now dethrones Roman Reigns and wins the undisputed title, they're not going to be viewed as, the top guy because they were not the guy that first pinned Roman Reigns on this dominant run as Universal Champion for like 3 years. But the idea of Jey Uso pinning Roman Reigns, it created that shock value, and it created that mentality of, oh shit, now he has a chance. But if you think about it, when we go into a possible match at SummerSlam, which most likely I think that's going to be happening in Detroit, we're going to be getting Jey Uso versus Roman Reigns one-on-one. Even though it creates that unpredictability nature, at the same time, it creates that predictable nature. So it's kind of 50-50 if you think about it. It creates that 50-50 mentality of, okay, here you got Jey Uso who pinned Roman Reigns, so it looks like he's going to be winning this match. But at the same time, knowing Wrestling 101 and knowing what usually happens when one guy pins one guy and then they run it back down, you know what happens after. Roman Reigns is going to get the win. But this only elevated Jey Uso into superstar status at the end of the day. It only elevated Jey Uso into superstar status. Not to take anything away from Jimmy Uso, because Jimmy Uso played a huge part in the story as well. Solo Sikoa plays a huge part in the story. I'm not going to exclude these guys, because both of these men play a big role in this story. And it will only come to fruition later on down the line. WWE is going long-term. They are going long-term. Is Cody still going to dethrone Roman? That is the major question. Is Cody going to still dethrone Roman? From what it looks like right now, it looks like we're going to be getting the rematch between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns at next year's WrestleMania. Could that be the case? Could the momentum of Cody Rhodes diminish a little bit? I don't know. I mean, Cody is still getting positive reactions by the crowd. So, do I see his momentum diminishing? No. But what if WWE, and this is another question that I have, what if WWE runs into a similar situation that they ran into late last year, early this year, when Sami Zayn was so hot that he became even hotter than Roman Reigns? What if we have a scenario kind of similar to like 2005 when they were doing the slow build with Batista and Triple H, and they do the same thing with Solo Sikoa, and he could be the guy to dethrone Roman Reigns at WrestleMania? It sucks for Cody. Trust me, it does. But for storyline's sake, it all makes sense. Is Jey going to dethrone Roman? No, he's not. Sometimes I did think he was, especially a couple of weeks ago. I came to the realization he's not really going to do it, especially after this match, considering he pinned Roman Reigns, and it looks like he's definitely going to be losing at SummerSlam, if that is the direction that they are going. But they planted the scenes on Friday about, Solo Sikoa being the next tribal chief. What if they go forward with that? I wouldn't be against that. It sucks for Cody. Trust me, I'm a big Cody fan, but at this point, a lot of people are not really talking about the things that Cody's doing. Everybody's talking about the Bloodline stuff. The Bloodline stuff is the best story in wrestling. This match was absolutely off the charts. I'm not going to go through this match spot by spot. I basically ran down the whole match for you guys, and this is basically the whole explanation I can give you for this match. But everything about this match was phenomenal. This was not a work rate, spot after spot type of match. There were spots that were awesome in this match, but it was all about the story. And that is sometimes all you need. That is really sometimes all you need. The reaction and the atmosphere in the crowd, that is sometimes, all you need. And honestly, WWE hit a home run with this match. They absolutely hit a home run, and they knocked it out of the park 110%. They went forward with pinning Roman Reigns. It took a lot of guts. It really did. There's pros and cons to pinning Roman Reigns, but for storyline's sake, I understand why they did it. And it's not like people were pissed off. People were happy. People were literally jumping on their feet at the O2 Arena in London. Is it going to be the same thing as we head towards SummerSlam? No, we're going to get Roman Reigns as the champion throughout the majority of this year up until next year's WrestleMania. That's just the nature of the beast. But at the end of the day, all this stuff is worth it because we're going to be getting a lot of compelling television regarding the Bloodline for the next how many months. This match was great. Absolutely phenomenal. Yes, on paper, it makes no sense for Roman to get pinned. But for storyline's sake, just story's sake, and that is it. That is it, story's sake. Kind of makes sense because it creates the storyline nature of Jey Uso getting Roman's number. And it creates that unpredictability nature of shit, Jey Uso has a chance, but at the same time, it makes it predictable because usually when it comes to Wrestling 101, you got Jey Uso pinning Roman Reigns, and usually when a guy pins a guy before a major match, they end up losing the next match. That's basically Wrestling 101 for you guys, but still, Jey Uso's not going to dethrone Roman Reigns, but the sheer thought of him pinning Roman Reigns, I fucking marked out when he got pinned. It was phenomenal. This match was everything that it needed to be. And that's all I got to say about the Bloodline Civil War. But yeah, that was my Money in the Bank 2023 review. Overall thoughts on this show. The show was great. I loved this show. It's no secret, I talked about this right at the top of this review. WWE has been hitting home runs when it comes to their pay-per-view/PLEs. They have. And if you deny that, you are the problem. You are the problem. WWE is hot right now. That's just that's the reality of the situation. That is not a knock on AEW. Look, 2 years ago, WWE couldn't even sell out a lot of the arenas that they were going to. AEW is kind of struggling in that nature, but momentum is momentum. Momentum goes somewhere and then it diminishes. Look, WWE has had some hot periods. They had some low periods. Trust me, they had a lot of low periods. AEW can recover, okay? But when it comes to their pay-per-view model, WWE is top-notch because they deliver quality. Yes, the weekly shows, they still struggle. But when it comes to the pay-per-views, even though you're only paying like $4 or depending on what type of, package you got for Peacock, I pay $4 a month, so I got the ad version. You still get that quality when it comes to the pay-per-views that you get, regardless of how much money you pay. And that is what I love about the PLEs that WWE has been bringing us. Almost all the pay-per-views that we've been getting, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, Elimination Chamber, Backlash, Night of Champions, now Money in the Bank. They've been home runs, man. They've knocked it out of the fucking park. And it's only going to get better as we head towards SummerSlam, Fastlane, Payback, Survivor Series. Cross my fingers they do War Games. It's been great stuff, man. Been great stuff when it comes to their pay-per-views. And the crowd in London, the crowds that they've been going, the markets that they've been going to, definitely played a huge role in that. And that is the biggest takeaway I can give you guys when it comes to their pay-per-views. The international markets that they would go to, honestly, definitely boosted a lot of these pay-per-views. Because usually when it comes to a pay-per-view like Backlash, Night of Champions, you wouldn't really care a lot. But in this scenario, you kind of did. And with Money in the Bank, us having the Bloodline Civil War stuff, it made things 10 times better. Everything about the show, was it perfect? No. There was some stuff that I didn't like on the show. But they knocked it out of the park. And a lot of that had to do with this main event. And a lot of that had to do with the atmosphere in the crowd and a lot of the moments that they made during a lot of the matches, like the Money in the Bank ladder matches, the Bloodline Civil War, all that type of stuff. But overall, Money in the Bank was a great show. I loved this show. WWE tends to, I don't want to say top themselves when it comes to pay-per-views, but they've been knocking it out of the park. But yeah, that was my Money in the Bank 2023 review. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. Push that bell for notifications. I'll be on the lookout for more videos right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the freaking referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. And as always, it is Flamin' Ricky DeRays, signing out. I'll see you guys tomorrow for AEW Collision.